worried that you might be the cool kid? You wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends. Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream? Always so generic, more normal than your friends. Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can't sleep easy after all that you've heard. Cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all. It's Canon with Tyler, Phil, and Boris. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all in Canon.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the It's Canon Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things geek, the podcast where we talk about all things toys, the podcast where we talk about all things movies, the podcast where we talk all things comic books, the podcast where we talk about all things video games, and so on and so forth. And the best part of it all is that it's all in canon. We're your hosts. I'm Boris, and as always, I am joined by Phil.
Hey everybody. Thanks for joining us back and checking out our corner of the internet and all the fun we have here on the It's Canon Podcast. And at least
All
Boris remembered this time to unmute his mic. Bro.
Last week was different just because of the setup.
Yeah.
But, usually it does it auto-magically, which is the beauty, which is why I forgot.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It happens.
What a week. Man. As we always do here on the It's Canon Podcast, we're going to be talking about all things pop culture, all things geek, all things tech. We just love talking. We like talking to each other. As we like to call this, geek therapy.
Yes. Very important.
So, Phil,
very important for the week.
How's everything? How's everything? How's your life? How has the life of Phil been the past 7 days?
You know what? I've been a mixed bag of going back to work after being on vacation, having a high up person that I report to unexpectedly fly into our office from another country. And my father had a car accident. That was fun, but he's fine. He's okay. And I had some medical eye procedure today, which is why I'm rocking the shades today. You know, it's texts and anything to do with anything other than my ears and general blobby shapes on the internet or TVs is all I can manage right now. And yeah, but that's about it. Like,
of course, as soon as we start.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, of course, as soon as the show starts, my internet goes to shit. But whatever, we'll make do with what we got. Yeah, man, it's good to hear though. You sounded like you were busy last week with work stuff. I hope your dad is okay. You did mention that.
Yeah, he's actually got a rental now, and it's a crossover car, and he was driving me back from, like, bless his soul, he's 86, and he's openly admitting, I'm not really comfortable driving, but he likes to be able to get in the vehicle once in a while, every couple days, and maybe make a trip to the supermarket. Maybe go pick up something that he wants. You know, he's kind of loves his independence. But yesterday, I had to show him how to use the gas pumps at the Esso. Because I told him you can't be going to Costco every time you need gas because it's a big trip, and that's how he made he got hit, but it's only because he was like, I'm going to go get gas across town. And I'm like, just go around the corner, waste the 50 cents.
Yeah.
Enjoy the convenience. Yeah. And then we're in the car, and luckily right after the procedure, my eyesight was okay. It was rather smooth procedure, and I get this done every 6 weeks or so. So anyhow, but sometimes I come out and I can't see a bloody thing. I'm just like, that's it, I'm done. And dark Phil emerges, right? But what ended up happening was a little kid had started crossing the road, and my dad, because he's so high up in this car compared to his Corolla, he didn't see this kid, and it was just like one of those blood flows red on the highway commercials, right? I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, the mom is chasing after the kid, looking at my dad. My dad's not slowing down. And I'm like, stop the car. And then he stops and goes, what? And I'm like, little kid right there. So now I think I'm going to have that conversation with him about just driving. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, and in his defense, the kid was small, but I'm the blind guy. And I'm like, stop. You're going to hit the kid. I'm like, talking to him, like, there's a kid there. There's a kid there. There's a kid there. And he's just, doo-doo-doo-doo.
Dude, I swear to you, getting in the car with my father is becoming a dangerous game.
It happens, man.
Holy shit, dude.
It's part of life.
He was always an aggressive, more on the aggressive side. He was always like, you know, like that, right? He's never gotten in an accident. He's never really like, you know, none of that bullshit, right? I think he's gotten one speeding ticket in his entire career. But he's a little aggressive. He's Latino, you know?
Yeah. Gets the fire.
But man, getting in the car with him now, it's a sport. It's a sport, and I have to be ready.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I
going to the TFC game because I visited my family on Saturday, and then you know, my dad drove to the TFC game. I was grabbing on. I was grabbing on for dear life at times. Like I was sitting in the back. I was grabbing. I was grabbing anything I could.
Yep, I know. Like. Even like going with my dad, because once in a while I'll just say to him, I'll go to the store with you because I need something there. I can drive my own car, but I go in his because I want to see how he's doing. How alert is he? How is he adapting? Because he's having a little bit of difficulty with moving around the house, I notice. And then other times he pretends like everything's fine. And he gets in the car, and I'm telling you, the holy shit handle is always gripped by me. Because he loves to be like the last second person to stop at a stop sign. And it's reprogrammed me as a driver now that I am the exact opposite way. I'm like a little old lady now. His new car has 121 horsepower, which is nothing. All right.
That's like a go-kart.
I know. And he's just like, oh, this thing handles great. It's peppy. It's all this because it's got 110 pounds of torque. So the thing has a bit of pull off a line, but it's not an electric car or anything. It's not like zapping around. My car has 170 horse. And mine's nothing to boast about, right? But it's the most horsepower I've ever had in a car. And I can go in that. And even now I'm like, nope. Speed cameras, nope. School zone, nope. Ticket, nope. I'll just, you know, if I get into that Canadian standoff at a 4-way stop, I'm like, oh no, you go ahead, dear. You go ahead. I'll wait.
Yep.
Oh.
I had the most embarrassing thing happen to me on Saturday.
Oh no, what?
Okay, so after the TFC game, my buddy Kevin, you know, guy who wrote this, our theme. Yeah. Go out for a couple pops. He's off baby duty for the night, so he wants to have some pops. We ended up meeting a friend on the East End, Queen and Broadview ish.
Okay,
you know, it's a nice area in Toronto. Blah 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 blah. A lot of cheap bars. Boris loves the price, so we go there. Start drinking somewhere between 10 and 12 p.m. And I say that because they had a second happy hour at this time.
Whoa.
Dude, the pints of the 16-ounce pints were costing us $6 each.
Whoa.
Right?
Oh, that's gonna be a bad Sunday.
Oh, no, I was fine on Sunday. I was actually fine.
Whoa, yeah.
And so the funniest part, the worst part, and this is one of those longs or short story longs. because none of this has anything to do with the actual point of the story. But I like leading up to it because, yeah. Okay, so then my friend, she's doing her dog walking. She ends up meeting us at about like 11:30, 11:45. Another friend shows up. We're just having fun. There's UFC on. We're sitting on the patio. There's dogs allowed. This place is packed. This place is having celebrating their anniversary party. And like it's $5 Jaeger, $5 Jameson.
Whoa.
Super cheap beer. Dude, it is insane. We had a respectable amount to drink, but I wasn't like anything crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because. So me and my friend, we decided to go back to her place, and she's like a 15-minute walk. The previous night, I had walked 24,000 steps, about 17 kilometers.
Wow.
So on this day, I was already starting to feel a little tired. And I was just tired in general. Like, Saturday was a busy day. Go to the TFC game, blah, 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 blah.
Down on you, the heat.
Yeah. And Kevin and I only had 2 beers at the TFC game, but they cost us $20 each.
Yeah, they're expensive as hell.
It was also the big ass buds, right? Like the king size buds.
King size cans.
Yeah. Anyways, it's about 3 a.m. Pay the bill. Take some beer to go because a lot of bars are allowed to give you like pack up beers for you to go. I guess that's allowed. And anyways,
it sounds very shady.
Place. Oh, it's shady as fuck. Walking to my friend's place. She lives, in the East End, Dundas-ish. Dundas, just east of the mall and whatnot. As we walk into her place isn't shade or anything, but there's always cop cars there because it's 3 apartment buildings, and you know how it is in Toronto, right? So as we're walking, there's cop cars there. I've had a Achilles injury for the past 5-6 months. I don't know what I did. I did something to my Achilles way back when.
24,000 steps.
Well, and that. No, you know what I mean. Like it's like the Achilles. It's been bad for a little while.
It's sore.
Yeah, and it's been a few months. Anyways, I take a step with the bad foot on the up on the curb, and my foot just gives up.
Yeah,
dude, I fucking nosedive right in front of 6 cops at 3:30 in the morning. As my friend has an open White Claw. I felt so bad that my shoes fucking flew off. Number 1, it's embarrassing being with her.
Yeah.
Number 2, the fucking cops.
Yep.
Everyone had a good laugh. Like I was fine. But just my bad foot sometimes just gives away. It just gives up. Says, "Fuck you, Boris. I'm not moving anymore." But it was like, oh my God, right in front of the cops. It was if my friend was not a white, blonde, blue eyes, I don't know what would have happened to me at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I know what you mean though. Like the older I get, first of all, I've talked about this with other friends, and we're a little bit of an age apart. But friends who are the same age as me, who are a little more advanced in the senior years, not quite a senior yet, but you know what I mean, getting up there. And anyhow, I'm like, do you ever just fall? And they're like, yeah, dude, it's a thing.
Right? It's a thing. It's a thing. Calm down, Jane. It's a thing. It happens to people when they get older. I know I'm not that old, but
I've
not
got
a chicken anymore.
Issue. And sometimes that exact same thing happens to me. I think the worst one was last year. I was in the back seat of my car getting food or groceries out or something, or even just putting bags back in the back seat of my car. Turn around, lost my footing, went freaking knee down first, down a hill. Wasn't that bad, but onto a concrete ground.
Jesus.
And I skinned my knee. And I kid you not. Okay, I haven't skinned a knee since maybe that I've done cycling, and before that, little kid. And I remember the pain, and I'm like, well, that's not that bad. Let me tell you, that still has left a mark on my knee. Like I still have a bruise there. And it's been like a year. The doctor just laughs and he's like, yeah, you're old.
Dude. Oh, man, it's scary, man. Like I'm not even 40 yet, right? But like I've noticed a drastic change in my body over the past like 3, 4, basically since 35. And it's not bad. I'm actually in like better shape than I was even back then, but it's just like, but I'm not a spring chicken anymore.
No, it creeps on you. It creeps on you. And never forget though, as well, it all depends on how much a person's history. And I know that you've had your health challenges. You know, you've had battles, as have I, as have most people, right? I think the best way I heard it, like I was explaining to a coworker that I have some medical issues or whatever. And she just said, we all do. Like, don't worry about it. Like, we all do. And she was right. Like, I'd never really put it into that kind of context. But I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. You know, it just builds on you and it wears you out. And, you know, I feel worst for kids that have ailments and whatnot, like being an older guy. I'm just like, yeah, you know what? You're going to get old. Old's going to get old. I relate to my father's creaks and groans a little bit more now than when I was.
I think about, and sorry, listeners, for this chat. We're catching up. Chat. Yeah. What I feel, well, you know what hit me at this point? Like, I want kids. I don't have kids as far as I know right now, right? Like, I am Latino after all. Never know.
Yeah.
Because I am getting older, fuck, man. People with like kids with older dads.
Yeah. It's a thing, man. You got to support them through like university and you're going to be in your, 70. Like,
yeah. Fuck me.
the math of it just doesn't work at a certain point. I hate to tell you.
Oh, exactly. That's
if it does happen, then you're in this world of shit because you're not going to be able to appreciate the growth. Right, you're not going to be able to.
And that's kind of where I am at this point. It's like, okay, Boris, you got to figure shit out very soon, and because what I want isn't becoming realistic. You know, isn't realistic? Isn't smart? Is it logical? Not only for myself, but for the poor kid.
Yeah.
That's that. Speaking of age.
Maybe that's why we're little kids on the show, right? Like we're into all the immature stuff, I guess that people would say.
Yeah,
immature.
Speaking of which, talking about age and getting older and all that stuff. On Saturday, as I mentioned, I went to the TFC game, and just randomly, a lot of the original Red Patch Boy members were there. A lot of the people from year 1, 2, and 3 were there. Flush, Connie. There's Jeff was there, Blue Nose. Who the fuck? It's been more than a decade since I've seen that man.
Yeah, even Stu Green took a picture of.
He doesn't go too much.
He took a picture. He was in 111. He took a picture of Carlos and basically was just like, Flush is at the game. Like, oh my god, waving a flag.
Yeah. So at half, we all kind of assembled and said hi, and we were talking and took a picture and we planned, like Flush and I said, you know what we need to do? We need to do a OG road trip. Try to gather as many of the OGs and fill a bus.
Oh man. I saw a thing on Instagram tonight. I'm saying this because we've lived this life. All right. We did so many road trips on buses. Unfortunately, I somehow became the bus captain on almost all of them. So I had to control the manifest. I had to control the interface to the driver.
Even when I was assigned the bus captain, you were somehow the bus captain.
Exactly. It always fell on me. So what ended up happening was one time in Columbus, we had to let out the tank, right? And it was just a very unpleasant experience. But thankfully, that driver found a way to do it courteously, and that was it. But I watched a thing on Instagram where Dave Matthews Band let out 4 days of sewage over a bridge in Chicago. And there was a boat going underneath, and the bridge was a graded bridge, so it all went on the people. Like, oh my goodness, that is disgusting. And Dave Matthews, the guy who smokes more than anyone, so you know he's got the munchies. His whole band is like eating garbage food. Oh, that was revolting.
So
Sorry.
My thought at that point was, dude, we've been doing this for 17, 18 years. We've known these people for 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
We're all 17, 18 years older, right? Like, people are, and then it hit me. Some people are like in their mid-50s going into their 60s at this point.
Jeff was the elder statesman on the bus. Blue Nose would show you. He'd be like, this is how you smuggle booze onto the bus.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like, very wise, Mr. Jeff.
Yep.
He's like, you will be hammered by the time you arrive.
Yeah.
We can't do that anymore. You know what would happen? Remember the flu bus? We all got on the one bus, and we all got the flu. We'd all have COVID-19.
We don't want COVID-20. And that's like,
it would just be like, oh, we're not letting you back in the country, guys. Like,
yep. It was something. So just keep it. I'll keep you informed. But we should do that. I think you and I have to be part of that trip.
I don't even have a passport anymore.
Oh, you're getting one. It's like, next year. It's not happening anytime soon.
We're doing it to Montreal.
Yeah, that's the plan. It's Montreal or Columbus.
Okay, not Columbus. Columbus, no.
Anyways, speaking of things that get older and don't change, iPhone 16. Let's quickly talk about that.
Didn't it get worse?
Yeah. What's crazy about the iPhone 16, I'm not going to go and we're not going to talk about the specs and blah, 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 blah. But what I do want to talk about is that we live in such a world now where this is the first time in a long time, and I'm pretty sure Android is going to be doing this because they can now hide their hardware specs for a year or two because all people give a shit about at this point is AI. AI this, AI that.
It's Android.
AI you.
That's
AI
Google.
us.
That's
AI.
Google Pixel. We're going to release a midstream phone and put AI in it, and you're going to want it. Like, that's the Pixel line.
Yeah, but
we're even making our own chip. Who does that? You know, Apple does it successfully.
They do it fine. They're doing
their
okay with it.
computers rock. But you know what I mean? Like that's what I mean. They do it successfully. Google does it, and they're like, Samsung, can you make it for us and make it extra shitty? Like, Genshin Impact has got to melt it.
But have you noticed, Phil, like people who used to harp and like really go off and off and off about hardware specs, everyone's shutting up because everyone's talking about what generative AI feature is going to be on this phone. Like, Jesus, fuck, who cares?
I know, half the time I'm disabling it. Like, I use a Google
Same.
Pixel. And I try to not use the Gemini bullshit and all that stuff. I tried it for a day, and then I was like, no, this is just stupid. It's a waste of time. And then they want you to subscribe, $25 a month. I could do this on my phone without that. Thank you. The only thing I will say about this new iPhone situation is that they're finally aligning to a degree with RCS chat. So now when I text my brother who loves iPhones, I have an iPhone too, folks. So believe me, when I get into this comparative stuff, I have a test bed. But when I text stuff to my brother, the photos look like crap and vice versa. So now I'm finally going to be able to text him a photo when he gets onto this version. And then he's going to be able to see the actual photo I sent him. So I like that. That's a normalization that should be mandated more often by the government as far as compatibility goes. I know that it doesn't change the bubble color.
As we've talked about so often, Phil, the problem. the problem is that the governments don't. There's no one that understands this stuff.
Yeah. And they don't even attempt to understand it. That's the part that frustrates me. It's like, if you don't get it, don't let
Exactly. And then
don't let the special interest groups push you around on it.
And then you have issues like what we're seeing right now in the US, where TikTok could very well be banned.
Yep. And you also have issues like what they did with Microsoft and Activision, right? Where Microsoft just cut 650 more jobs because of their now redundant due to the acquisition, which was something they went straight in, got accused of, and said, we're never going to do that. And now that it's been a year, this is the third round of cuts. They lied to the government about what they would and wouldn't do. The government, like, you got to know that the corporations are going to lie when it comes to this stuff with mergers and everything. And now you got to go down this whole antitrust stuff again, right? With Google, with Apple, with all these companies. It's just a frustrating thing from a consumer point of view. I don't want to spin our wheels on it too much, but I feel everybody's like pain on this, because the video game industry this year is a disgusting picture of how to just steamroll employees' lives. And my heart goes out to all the people who lost their jobs at Microsoft, all the people who in the past few years have lost their jobs at Google, especially the Stadia division. Like, all these people, and now basically Xbox is recreating Stadia. It's just asinine. It's just laughable. This whole
for
thing.
me, what gets to me, Phil, is that you have like, I'm not trying to say that, hey, look how amazing we are, but Tyler is a very intelligent person. He understands the law and he understands technology, and he's very good at what he does and did. He used to work for lobby groups, remember?
Yeah.
You and I have worked in the tech industry for how long? A combined, freaking 60 years at this point?
I would say 50. Probably about 50 years combined.
Okay. So, like, for me, the fact that we can see these trends, we can see this stuff happening so far ahead of time. Go back to listen to our shows from 2021,
2020,
late 2021, 2020. Yep. And we've literally described what the tech industry and the video game industry and the movie industry has become. Like, we have, like, it's scary that we almost called it step by step.
It was the even calling out Game Pass for what it's doing right now, abolishing tiers, introducing new tiers that have less access to games in order to force you into the upgrade to the Ultimate, and raising the price of Ultimate all at the same time. It's just, wow. Just we called that, you know what I mean? Like, and a lot of groups, to their credit, have called it inside games. I've seen a lot of people on the internet expressing the same fears, expressing the same doubts about streaming's viability, expressing, like, essentially, like we were talking about the other week, we now have the TV model that we tried to all cord cut from. We have to sit down now and watch Amazon Prime Video with ads. Pluto TV, it's free, but there's ads.
There's ads.
You know what I mean? And now we're getting cable service back on our streaming service with ads.
In a world where it's all about
age, when we had PVRs and we could fast forward through ads. Like,
in a world where profit is king, streaming and that model just doesn't ever make sense, and that's part of the issue, right? It's just it just doesn't make sense that and ad companies are, like, companies in general, they're willing to spend money on ads. They want to spend money on ads. For some reason, they think ads still work. To be honest, they do. So we knew that we were gonna get to a place where this was gonna happen. But for me, it's more. Not only are we seeing ads, but we're still paying. We're paying a fee to see them. Like, it's crazy. We got streaming services to get away from commercials and shit like that, but somehow, we're paying to watch commercials at this point.
Yeah, they're being introduced against our will, against the original agreement. It's like making a deal with Vader. Pray I don't change it anymore. Like, it's like, holy crap. And then companies like Disney pull moves where they try to hold up a streaming service contract and say that we can't be sued because you choked at one of our restaurants because your husband signed up for Disney Plus 2 years ago. Or it didn't choke. She had anaphylactic shock. So
she ate something that she was allergic to. She went into shock and she ended up passing away. The husband tried to sell Disney. Disney said, you were a member of Disney Plus a few years ago, and in the terms of conditions say that you cannot sue. How is that humanly possible?
Well, to be fair, the lawyers have dropped that argument now.
I know, but still.
I know. And I just want to put
Phil, the only reason why it was dropped was because of the PR backlash.
Yeah, true enough. It looked awful. But the other issue that a lot of news corporations and whatnot miss, and this is another rub of mine, all right, is getting the whole story. And the whole story is Disney don't own the restaurant that the person had the problem at. This was not at Disney World. This was at Disney Springs, which is outside of Disney World. It's a launch point into Disney World. And they rented a restaurant to a restaurant that's independent of Disney. So that restaurant should be liable, not Disney, in my opinion. It just happened under a Disney banner. And Disney rightfully tried to pull everything. But when you pull that, it's a PR disaster. And that's what really irked me, is that this is a shitbag company doing a shitbag move on some people who suffered a tragic loss. So that showed poorly, as far as I'm concerned. For the Mickey Mouse Ears company, that was not a very nice thing to do.
To say the least. To say the least. Emmy Awards happened last night. Phil, did you see anything about this?
I happened to notice that one of my favorite shows this year made out very well. In fact, I think they broke a record.
Yep.
And that would be
25 nominations, 18 wins for Ghost of Shogun.
Shogun.
It's Shogun, yeah. No, it's excellent show. For anyone who has not watched Shogun yet, we'll go and watch it. It was one of those shows, as we were talking about last week with Snowpiercer, I would stay up until 3 a.m. to watch that next motherfucking episode because that show had me hooked by the balls.
That there was such subtle brilliance in the show too, just in how they constructed it. And the part that always blew me away was I was enjoying reading the subtitles and hearing the translation, like how she was manipulating the conversation with other Japanese speakers. And you could see that what she was telling the other guy, what she said, wasn't what she told them in the subtitles, and vice versa. So I really enjoyed that interplay more than I should have. Fantastic show visually, well acted, and one of the true great shows of 2024. We've been blessed with a lot of good TV. The Bear being another one. You've turned me on to that, and holy crap, I've not stopped recommending that show to people I work with and friends, because I'm like, I don't know what it was about just the right level of drama and just everything. I'm a big sucker for, you know me, you had the same issue or the same affliction with Anthony Bourdain, right?
Yeah.
I used to love watching Anthony Bourdain, and yeah, that was just, yeah, I really enjoy The Bear. One of the best watches I've done in a long time.
Still recommend The Bear to anyone I talk to if they haven't watched it.
Yeah,
Alex,
the new season
was late today. I told him about it, and I think he binged it last summer in just a few days.
Yeah,
I told my buddy,
not.
like everyone I've told about. So The Bear cleaned up also. Before we go into some of the categories, I just want to like quickly gloss over some. The biggest like kind of like takeaway outside of Shogun, outside of The Bear, outside of Fargo, and those is kind of like how a network or the suits, the executives, the powers that be define a show, because there's been a lot of talk about The Bear being considered a comedy.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
The Bear was entered in all of the comedy categories.
No, because they didn't want to lose to Shogun.
That's literally what I think.
Yeah. Makes sense, but it's not a comedy, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's another way to get a new audience, too. I'll check out the comedy award winner. Oh, The Bear? I didn't know it was a comedy. I'll check it out now. Yeah. Whoa, what the hell am I watching? Oh, I'm hooked.
Best supporting actress in a comedy went to Lisa Colon-Zayas from The Bear. You know, like.
Yeah. Not shocking.
Best supporting actor in a comedy went to Cousin, a.k.a. The Thing, from The Bear.
Oh, he's going to be The Thing. Didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Another show that cleaned up was Baby Reindeer.
It's a tall thing. Well,
yeah.
Okay. We got Slim Jim thing, I guess.
Fargo did well. Best comedy, guest actress, Jamie Lee Curtis, The Bear.
The Bear. Yeah. Again.
Best comedy guest actor, John Bernthal, The Bear.
Oh, The Bear.
Yep.
That's awesome. Like, Disney's got to be really happy at this point because they own FX, right?
Yeah. One show that I'm surprised won. Best animated program. These were the nominees. X-Men 97, The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, Scavenger's Reign, and Blue Eye Samurai. Do you know which one?
Samurai. Blue Eye
Samurai.
Yeah, well deserved. I think that is a very good and detailed and surprisingly long season. I still haven't finished it, but holy crap, it's intimidating because some of those episodes are like, oh, this is my night. Like, this is it.
Best documentary or nonfiction special went to your boy Jim Henson's Idea Man on Disney Plus.
Ron Howard. Good job. It was a very watchable film.
Best documentary or nonfiction series went to our boy Beckham on Netflix.
Good for him.
That was a good one. Did you watch it?
I think so. It's very forgettable when it comes to soccer sometimes. The only thing I recall watching with any enjoyment was the Tika Waititi Next Goal Wins from last year.
Oh, yeah.
But I did watch Beckham because I think Grant Wall was in it.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Like I just wanted like, and it was Beckham, right? Like that was a huge thing. That's right. I remember watching it now. Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Yep. But you know what the funny part is about The Bear being considered a comedy?
What's that?
They didn't even win Best Comedy.
Wow. Yeah, if it's not really funny, it's dramatic. But there was a whole bunch of shenanigans that went on
they
because
got beat up by.
Originally, Shogun was supposed to be limited series, and then they moved it into dramatic episodic or whatever it was because they signed on for more seasons. So it was originally just supposed to be a one and done because that was the book, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. The interesting part, though, is that because of that move, basically the shift of Shogun going from a limited series to a full dramatic series opened up the floodgates for Baby Reindeer to essentially win all of the limited series Emmy Awards.
Right. I've had that one on my radar, but unfortunately, it's not my bag. I know it's good. I've heard
it's good. A show that I know is a fact is filming right now because they were filming in my neighborhood not too long ago is What We Do in the Shadows. I cannot wait for that next season and the last season.
Interesting. Haven't heard of that.
Good. It's dude, Disney, watch it. What We Do in the Shadows. It's based off of the movie What We Do in the Shadows. It's basically a mockumentary about vampires.
Interesting. I don't know if that's my bag, but I'll give it a shot and see if it hooks.
I think you'll like it. I think you would like it. Trust me. Have I ever steered you wrong?
A few times, but we won't talk about that.
So yeah.
Now
that's that.
I did something this week. I waited a week just to see the reviews and confirm that it is good and it is great. And I bought Space Marine 2 on the Xbox. And let me tell you something here, young man. Holy crap, what a game. What a game. For the next gen consoles. I heard it doesn't perform as well on a PS5, but I'm sure they'll patch that up. I'm just going through the campaign right now, and oof, it is a butt romp good time.
Games are allowed to have campaigns still?
Yeah, it's weird, right? But it's got xenomorphs all over the place. It feels like you're playing a steroided up Aliens video game, and I'm here for it. Like I've always been a player of Warhammer. As far as when I was a teenager, we used to play Warhammer. We used to play Epic. We used to play Space Hulk. We used to do all that. And then early gaming, I used to play Space Hulk on the computer, things like that. And then I kind of got off the franchise because the franchise kind of started expanding into this world that was way beyond the rule books. And that's okay. You know, it got its own novels. It really went down some storylines. But this game holds your hand. It explains the characters really well. I think there's a previous game, obviously, Space Marine 1, that was on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. And I think it's on the computer too. And it's not cheap. And anyhow, it runs really well on the Xbox and on the PlayStation 5. I don't think it's a lout or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend it. There is an online component that introduces completely new scaling of how you build your Space Marine and outfits and everything like that. It's got the whole monetization thing going on that way. But overall, I gotta say, I really am enjoying just sitting down and blasting through a level of xenomorph wiping, like, and it's bloody. It's very, very violent.
Very cool. Very cool. Sounds up my alley, man. Have you, speaking of xenomorphs, have you watched Romulus yet?
I'm waiting for it to come out on digital. That would not be one for the theater. That would be me going to the washroom for 2 hours. Just going, I'm scared. I've got diarrhea.
I hear it's good.
I heard it's
one of my friends, she watched it and she loved it, and it's like, oh yeah, cool. The fact that you like it, and she's watched them all, right, including Prometheus and stuff. So I'm like, okay, cool, very cool.
Yeah, I've heard great things about it. I liked Prometheus. I liked all the post stuff. You know, I wasn't big on Alien 3. Wasn't big on some of the weirdness that it became. but the reboot, Prometheus and the subsequent one, they were fine. They were, kind of tried to get the magic back in the bottle. But this one goes back to the grassroots of the original Alien and just really builds out on that. And that's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Simple is good.
It's funny because the first Alien movie that I watched was Alien 3 on Viewers Choice Canada with the illegal cable box.
Oh, I feel sorry for you. Actually, Alien 3 was just, it made unfortunate choices with characters.
Mm-hmm.
It did. That was the one.
Now that I look back to it, but I'm like, as a kid, you're like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. Yeah. And then my brother, he's like, oh, you like this? Let's watch the original. So we watched Alien and then Aliens. And yeah, out of the two, I was more like a bigger fan of the James Cameron doing his thing. Yeah. Right. Yeah, but then now, awesome. But what's funny is now I appreciate Alien more than Aliens. Yeah.
That's one of the few horror movies that I dig. Like, I'm just like, I'm here for it. And in fact, to the point where they did a James Cameron 4K re-release this year, and I ended up picking up The Abyss 4K disc and Aliens because I'm like, you know what? Aliens, the movie, was one of those things that my parents would go and rent a VCR at Consumers Distributing. All right, this is how long ago. They used to rent Laserdisc players and VCRs. And we'd either get one or the other. And the selection of movies at the time was crap. You didn't have a Blockbuster Video. You had Consumers Distributing, which was you had to shop from a catalog, right? And you didn't buy it. You just rented it. They had the model to rent it with the player. And you could rent 3 movies. And every weekend we'd go and we'd rent this thing. And we'd rent 3 movies. And one of them was inevitably always Aliens. And my parents didn't know what we were watching because they didn't watch it. They didn't want to sit around the TV all the time. So what we ended up doing was my brothers and I would rent Porky's. And then the other one that we'd sneak in was Stripes, right? If it wasn't one of the regular, like if it was the kids got to pick it. And we also did Alien, but Stripes was one of my favorite movies growing up, and it still is to this day. Another one was Blues Brothers. We did a lot of, and yeah, it was just so funny because my parents had no clue what we were watching, and it was either like Poltergeist or something like that. It was either disturbing horror or something with the porn element. Like a nudity element.
Porky's.
Porky's, dude,
oh my God, Porky's. Like, if you haven't seen Porky's and you're above the age of 18, go out and watch it. It's a great movie. Yes. The first time I watched that, yeah, dude. The first time I watched that, I was just like, "What the fuck am I watching? What is this?"
Another one that was extremely influential, Revenge of the Nerds, man.
Oh, one of my favorite movies. That and Meatballs.
Yeah, Meatballs. And even Spaceballs.
We ain't found shit. Honestly, would movies of that genre, like that raunchy genre, be allowed nowadays?
I think Kevin Smith is still making movies.
But they're not like Porky's. They're not like that.
Watch Mallrats again.
Okay, but that's still 30 years ago, Phil.
Yeah, true enough. I am curious to see this 4:30 movie. I've heard good things about it. It's out now. I've heard very good things about it.
Yep, same here.
Like critics are saying it's his best movie since Clerks. Like.
Oh wow!
I don't know if the critics really fully appreciate the Kevin Smith universe, but they don't know the brilliance of Tusk.
Oh, Tusk! We got to check it with Dax and see if he watched Tusk finally.
Oh God, are yoga hosers?
Yeah. Yeah, so going back to Alien, I'm really looking forward to this Alien Earth show. Comes out first half of 2025. It's the prequel to everything takes place on Earth, but apparently we will be seeing the xenomorphs. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, a fun time. That was one of the few comic books that I collected was Aliens, a little bit of Predator, because they crossed over a lot. But Aliens was one of the comic books that I really collected, and I even recently bought some issues. I think Paul Reiser was involved in some of the comics lately, some of the issues. But anyhow, it was going and investigating a lot of stuff around that timeline. So it was great.
Yeah. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, as we were talking about last week, and I was talking about, there's the networks and how the networks, like, just aren't sure what they're doing. There is still a lot of interesting stuff coming out, but with existing IP.
There's not a lot of new IP. I'm baffled by that, but sure. We have to get How I Met Your Father, which I think got canceled.
It did get canceled.
That sucks. Not that the show was gangbusters or anything, but it had its moments.
Yep. That's but it was good. It was good. So there's a TikTok content creator, a TikToky. What do you call him?
TikToker.
TikToker? Yeah, okay. We'll go with TikToker. Yes, we're two old guys talking about TikTok. I love TikTok. It honestly, TikTok gives me enough ammo to prep for this show.
Yeah, that's like Instagram Reels for me. Same type of thing. It's often TikTok.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. You get your Reels about 3 weeks after I see them.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, what was I talking about? Oh yeah. How I Met Your Mother. So this guy, and he's like goes into like these video essays about how I met your mother, and like, this guy obviously knows a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, through interviews and whatnot and conversations he's had with people, and it's very interesting because like, especially because with the DVD releases, he talks about those and a lot of the scenes and a lot of how the ending was kind of like, and we know this because we saw that, predicted from the get-go. But it's really interesting because they've made various cuts, apparently, of that ending. And some of them were just so much better than what we actually got. And look, I'm not one of those people who hate the ending of How I Met Your Mother.
It had to end.
It just wasn't ideal. Apparently, I saw this interview in this guy's channel with the guy who played the son, right? And when they were getting older, like him and the daughter, that's at around season 2 is when they decided, okay, you guys are like hitting puberty really fast. We got to film everything now. So they made them sign NDAs and blah, 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 blah. And they were told one possible ending. And funny enough, that possible ending wasn't the ending that actually aired. So it's just interesting, right? Yeah. They knew that they wanted to get to Robin. That's all they knew at some point. They knew that at some point they wanted to get back to Robin, but they didn't know how they were going to do it.
Yeah. And you know what? The funny thing is I have all the DVDs, I think. I obviously haven't watched the extras.
I have season 1, 2, and 3 on DVD because that's funny enough. Season 1 and 2 is how I started watching that show on DVD.
Yeah,
I started watching the show like on cable around season 3. So yeah, DVD.
I think I've got everything but the last season on DVD. I should look into that and see, kind of flush out that shelf.
Right. Let us talk about a topic du jour, and that is Terminator Zero. I really want to spend a little bit of time on this. Oh my God, Phil, where do we even start with Terminator Zero? First off, let's talk about when I first heard of Terminator Zero, I was very skeptical. I was very skeptical, and I knew I shouldn't have been. But because it's so different. The story you knew was going to be so different from what we think is canon and lore of Terminator that I really wasn't sure how it was going to go in a anime style that takes place in Japan and all this and that. Like, I was very skeptical about how it was going to be presented and what changes were going to come. And look, I'm all for change, right? The way that, like with Star Wars, like whatever, just bring it. But personally, I was very skeptical on how this was all going to come together. How about you? What were your thoughts when you first heard of the show?
I showed the trailer to my group of friends who are my age. And the feedback overwhelmingly was, so it's Ghost in the Shell meets Terminator. And that was the lens that we all looked at it. Like, yeah, this looks like something I'd want to watch, right? I have no idea about the content. But I thought, I've known this production studio for now probably about 30 years, if not more, of my life. Like, at least, well, I guess, Ghost in the Shell was like, what, 91 or something? So since then, it's been a long time. And I was just like excited to see their stuff because I've seen a lot of their stuff in other assemblies and other enterprises. And I've always been impressed and admired the consistency of the animation style, and the ability to tell a story constantly blows me away by them. Now, as far as the lore of Terminator, I've grown up with it, but I've always found that it was very limiting in the sense that the trope was so hard to adhere to that it shut down a lot of other creative possibilities. Like, it was always going to be, can a Terminator get back 20 hours earlier? You know what I mean? Like, can we deal with that repercussion? Like, how do we deal with that wrinkle and things like that? Like, it was very cyclical. I did enjoy, I think the last Terminator thing I saw was with a new Sarah Connor, and I thought that show was excellent. Like, I just enjoyed the new take.
Like the TV show from 2009?
It was either the TV show or the movie thing that they did, and they recast Sarah Connor with this younger girl. And I gotta say, like, it worked for me. I was just like, you know what? This finally reignited the Terminator for me. Like, it was just like, but then it petered out. It disappeared, right? It was so, like one of those B movies.
If you're talking about the Sarah Connor Chronicles, that's the Fox TV show back from 2008. Do you know who played Sarah Connor on that show?
No. Who?
What's her face? She was in Game of Thrones.
Emilia Clarke?
No. Cersei. Forget her name.
Oh, Cersei. Interesting. We need that feature that's on Amazon Prime.
Lena Headey.
Lena Headey.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
I think it's
here. I'm going to
Terminator
share again.
Salvation. Salvation, is that it?
Oh, Salvation. That's
the last movie. Oh, 2009. Maybe that's it.
That's the TV show that we're talking about. Yeah. Anyways, Terminator Zero. Now, obviously it comes out late August. I watched it a couple weeks ago, and we're not going to get too much into the spoilers because I know some of our listeners specifically mentioned
takes a while.
Don't spoil it because they still haven't watched it. I know Alex still hasn't watched it, so I don't want to spoil it for him either. For me, what it was about this was something that I think a lot of people and creatives forget about Terminator is that it is human focused. And what I loved about Terminator Zero so much is that it really questioned the morality of all of the humans in the flashbacks to 1997.
Yeah, it had a very interesting way of dealing with technology and mankind, which again, I think is the magic of a studio that does things like Ghost in the Shell, which questions soul versus artificial soul or robotics, that type
Which
of
is
thing. This
funny.
went down a very similar vein in a different approach. And it doesn't really hit you until later in the show, which is when it gets really interesting, because a guy basically creates an AI called Kokoro. And it was just interesting to see how that all unfolded, because the whole series ends up being a teased out until, you know, the ultimate end, which I won't spoil for anyone. But just the groundwork is, you know, Kokoro is Japanese for mind, spirit, and body. And it's just like this. It was just really well put together and stitched together. And I was blown away. I'm wrong. Last week, Boris called me on it, where he said, "Hey, Phil, just wait until those last 2 episodes." And sure enough, those last 2 episodes, it didn't reassemble the way that I thought it would, like the jigsaw. So bonus points. They did a good job. And for everyone listening, Terminator Genesis with Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor.
Funny enough.
That was a good show. That was a good movie. For me,
funny.
I just like the newer.
Now, back to Terminator Zero. What's funny about Terminator Zero is something that like we explore a lot on this show, especially when Tyler's around, so he can keep us focused. And that's, again, you and I are in the tech industry. We see a lot of tech. We know what's up. We know what's coming. We know this. We know that. And sometimes, you know, especially knowing certain things, like not that like there's like big secrets, but just seeing the tech trends, right?
Yep.
And seeing like this whole AI trend.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we're NFTs and stuff like that, right? We're the ones who say, don't buy into this bullshit. This is bullshit. Or don't download this, or don't, you know, whatever, because it's not good for you, or it does this, or it does that. I kind of like that exploration. Like, I understand that the Bane scientist character in Terminator Zero, he has other reasons to hate AI and robots, but it's ironic that he works with AI and robots, but he's still like very much like, be fucking careful.
Yeah, and it was just interesting how he's very insistent with his family about their distance to AI, and yet there's an oxymoron in there that becomes apparent during the series that I'm like, okay. So yeah, it was just like such a fun take, and yeah, it was very relatable.
You know who voiced Kokoro?
Who?
Rosario Dawson.
Oh, interesting. Oh, good call.
So again, not to give too much away, but what I was getting nervous about with this show was a new take in this anime world that adds or changes lore based on what we know with Terminator, right? Like, very basic.
It didn't do that though.
That's the thing, right? Like, we know Skynet goes active and Skynet blows shit up in 1997, right? Yep. I was very nervous, concerned, and curious how this was going to work. And then watching that first few minutes of the first episode, you're like, is this a new take? Is this this? Is this that? You're not quite sure where in the world this lands. Then you're thinking, is this in other worlds? Is this in What If? Like, what's going on? But then you see how it all comes together.
Yeah, it knitted well with the lore of Terminator and the canon of it. It still managed to tell its story and be very dramatic and leave it hanging open for more. Like, successful job. I hope the numbers are up for Netflix to renew this and keep it going, because it's a worthwhile watch. I enjoyed the dynamics between the kids and the nanny. I enjoyed, like, there was a lot to dig into, and the fearfulness of the father and the protectiveness. A lot of stuff that I thought was just really, really bang on and good. So
Yeah.
It's a strong recommend.
What's weird though is like you have like the main character Eco, like the nanny, right?
Yeah.
She was kind of built up to kind of be like the Sarah Connor of this show, but it's kind of weird how as the show goes on, she kind of fades to like I don't want to say a background character, but not the focus that we thought she would be.
Yeah, and at the same time, the focus that we thought she'd be. Like the end.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
It was a very good job. Like that, I just can't not say it without ruining it or anything like that. It was a very good job of mixing us around and doing something a lot of fun.
Yep.
Oh.
Look, it's Terminator is one of those IPs, one of those franchises that there's been a lot more bad than good, especially recently. But
Yeah.
what I appreciate about Zero is that this new fresh take at the end of the day does add to the lure. It does add to the canon, does add to the story, and it kind of rejuvenates it and reboots it all at once without fucking anything up.
Yeah, it gives it a new angle, and that's worthwhile.
Yeah.
And if you like that, I'll tell you, it's an exhausting movie, but it was good for, let's say, 80%. And it's not like the ending sucked, but the ending was shoehorned. But this one here, it's on Disney Plus, The Creator. If you want to shit your pants about AI, great movie.
Yeah, it's true, man. Like that's the thing. AI is a hell of a thing. Like it's
Like, honest to goodness,
funny, I was reading this thing,
and just this storyline and the complexity about AI and how it unifies the world and how certain states go against it, like certain countries just absolutely reject it and start to try to commit genocide on AI. And then you have other countries that just heap it in and trust it. And it's just such an interesting storyline and whatnot. I was really drawn into that, and I was hook, line, sinker for, like I say, about from the get-go to 80%. And then I was just like, please end this now. Like, it should have been a second movie.
So that's Terminator Zero. Overall, thumbs up for me. How about you, Phil?
Thumbs up, yeah.
All right.
Easily. I'd say
watch it.
out of 10, I'd say it's probably an 8.5 out of 10 for me.
I'd give it an 8.5 for sure. I think it's a good 8.5. It's a very good show. Draws you in, keeps you interested. You want to know what's happening. And let me tell you this, even if you have ADHD and, blah, 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 you're not going to guess how this ends. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really good at predicting endings of things. I thought I had this one in the bag, and I was just like, oh, no, hold my beer. No. I did not see that turn. And it wasn't really a turn. It was just a logical place for the story to go. And it made a lot of things make a lot of sense.
And it puts it in a position where it can come back, and it also finished its story, so it doesn't need to come back if it doesn't come back. So that's the beauty about this at the end of the day. So, Phil, let's talk about really before we go, and this is more of a quick fact. It always scares me when I read that thing that, if AI was smart enough, it wouldn't let us know that it's actually smart enough. You know what I mean?
That's a scary scenario.
Right?
Yeah. It makes me wonder when I see those YouTube videos or whatever where they try to uncover something and say, oh, this person quit Google and they're just saying that they have a live AI and they passed the Turing test and all this. And I'm like, and Google are like pushing it down, going, no, it's not real. Like, try Gemini. That's how advanced we are. Like, it really scares me in the sense that I think AI is still just a really, especially when we're talking about AI for phones. All right. I don't have much firsthand experience with ChatGPT, and I'm not interested in trying to teach it because that's my attitude towards it. But I am the stuff that's on our phones is just stuff that learns our behaviors. It learns our repetition. It learns our frequency. It needs a data model. It creates a data model about you. The part that bothers me is who owns that data model. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? At a certain point, every single user has to trust Apple or Google or even Amazon, right? Like, these companies, that's what they're making money on. If you look at Amazon, its moneymaker is no longer products. You'd think it's products, but it's no longer products. Its data model is advertising and data, data traffic.
Yep.
Same with Google. 80% of their stuff is data trafficking. It is ad revenue and customer knowledge. This is valuable in the marketplace. And you have to shop wisely. You have to choose who you're willing to trust. Right? Not for 1 minute do I trust any of them, but I have to trust somebody.
100%, Phil.
I'll trust Google personally, but that might not be what you want to do. Apple says they're not going to sell your data. I'll guarantee you Apple sell your data at some point. If the financials get bad enough, they're just not going to tell you. And that's the same thing with AI. When it gets maniacal enough, it's not going to tell you. But right now, it's a data model. I just see ChatGPT.
Yeah. Yeah. It's look. Yeah, it's all insane, man. It's honestly all insane at this point. We'll see where we go. But Phil, I think it's time that we do our thing.